This week on the Faculty Factory podcast.
We stay so focused on completing the task and then marking that off of our checklist and moving on to the next task that we don't stop and take a look back at what we have accomplished. Yeah, I think that's so important for maintaining self-motivation as well.
You're so right. We're so fast to criticize, and I guess in academic medicine, and we get this thick skin because we get so many papers rejected and so many grants rejected and constant dings in our email that we failed to complete some regulatory compliance training and all these threatening, things coming at us. So we're so used to the criticism. And I just love how you stop to say, no, wait a minute. We have to appreciate and value the good things that we're doing. And we don't do that enough. Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. On today's episode, we have Dr. Erika Brown. She's the Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs and Development at the Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. Hi, Erika. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Kim. Thank you.
How in the world did you end up the Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs and Development? And I know you do breast cancer research, so can you walk us through that journey?
Okay, absolutely. Okay, well, as you said, my background is in breast cancer research, so I got my first faculty position at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston in 2004. And I primarily served as a researcher and maybe about 20 to 30% teaching. And I stayed in that mode for a few years. And then in about maybe 2007, I became a course director for one of the courses in my academic department, which was the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. So I remained a course director for about a year or so. And the provost at that time took note of the administrative responsibilities I had taken on and was impressed and wanted to further develop those administrative talents, especially with me wanting to have a longer career or a career of longevity in academia. So I then had a director's position in the office of the provost, and I also continued to perform research and teach. And my area of research, as we stated, and to some extent still is in breast cancer, where I studied the BRCA1 and BRCA2 proteins, as well as their roles in repair of damaged DNA. So about, from about 2008 until 2012, I had those three academic areas that I was focused on in my career. And in around 2012, I wanted to move closer to home. I'm a native of Atlanta, and this is where my family resides. And Charleston was about a 5-hour drive between Atlanta, or there's a 5-hour drive between Charleston and Atlanta. And I wanted to live in a much closer proximity to my family and close friends. So I started looking at positions that were a little closer to home or within the city of Atlanta. So I asked around, and timing is everything. If there's any type of professional development advice I could give is, there are times when all of the stars align and things just come together. And at the time that I was looking for another position and also looking to move up in academia, the position of the inaugural or the new Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs and Development opened up at Morehouse School of Medicine. I was invited to apply and interview, and fortunately I got the position. So the goal was to not only leave the office, but to also create it as well. So that was a very interesting task, and I learned a lot from it by being able to build an office of this magnitude on campus.
Wow. So you walked into nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So walk us through. You're brand new on the campus. You had not been an associate dean in Charleston. So, but obviously you'd observed what was happening in the provost office, and you had all that administrative, expertise and course directorship. What was like the first thing you did when you got in this new role as faculty affairs and development? What did you start with?
Well, there were two major things. The first thing was to work closely with my dean at that time. to determine what the needs were on campus regarding faculty affairs and professional development, and to perform a needs assessment. So I needed to determine what did we already have on campus, because each department and each unit had their own thing going, but they were at varying levels of development of those individual professional development opportunities. Sure. So I needed to see, what did we already have on campus? What did we need? And with respect to what was on campus, what was, I'd say, in a final stage, what was, off the presses and ready to go, and what actually just needed to be enhanced. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was I needed mentors, because this was a new position for me. And I was fortunate enough to be assigned 2 mentors. One was an individual who was a vice provost for academic affairs and had spent many years doing what I was about to embark on doing. And the other was someone who was connected with the AAMC in the group of faculty affairs. And they were very, they were invaluable in helping me to not reinvent the wheel, because we scheduled monthly meetings with each other. And I relayed to them what the vision was for the institution, what I saw the needs were, as well as what our strengths were, what we could actually build on, what we already had in place and we could enhance. And from that, we had this wonderful academic trifecta. And we were able to get the office just up and going, I'd say, within about 6 months, as far as getting those foundational things in place. Now, it took about 5 years for me to look back and just see how far we had come. But with that foundation, that really helped the office soar. And I say 2 things, but there was also a third thing, and that was establishing those collaborations with other units that work closely or would be working closely with our office. So within my first 6 months, I also made an effort to get to know the staff in human resources, got to know our general counsel, also got to know those other offices that would be instrumental in professional development, such as our Office of Continuing Medical Education, our Office of Research Development. And building those collaborations also helped to really boost the effectiveness of the office.
And so as we sit here today, now you joined in 2008 at this position, right?
Actually, 2013. So I started my administrative position in 2008 at my previous institution. Okay. Interviewed here in December of 2012 and started working in February of 2013.
What does your office look like now then, 6 years later?
Yeah, and one thing I want to reiterate is I think things were happening all along, within that 5-year period. But once I got to that 5-year benchmark and I started doing an assessment of where we started and where we were at that time, because I'd actually stopped and looked instead of just, remaining in motion. Once I stopped and looked back, I said, okay, we have really gotten a lot accomplished. But the way the office is set up now is I have roughly 3 staff members. One is our faculty affairs coordinator, and this individual is responsible for processing the academic components or packets for new faculty members regarding their appointments, and we also process what's required for promotion of faculty. And this individual is responsible for really managing overall academic components of faculty employment, and also is engaged with our faculty bylaws committee and other related faculty policies. And this individual retains a strong link with all of our academic departments with respect to remaining in communication with our office. Sure. So that's one individual. The other is a manager of faculty records. And this person maintains all of the databases and demographic information that pertains to faculty, and also manages the processes for annual evaluations and is responsible for the generation of faculty data and faculty reports. And as you know, this is important when we have to provide information to, say, our accrediting bodies, or if we are going to embark on any type of strategic planning on campus, those reports are important. And this individual also works closely with HR. And the next person is our faculty development liaison. And I refer to them as a liaison because this is someone who is actually in another office but works closely with ours. And this individual works in the office that houses our continuing medical education programming and basically the all that pertains to continuing medical education. But their office is called the Office of Extended Professional Education, which we call OEPE for short. So this individual serves as, like I said before, a liaison between our office and maintaining and engaging in professional development across campus. So this person keeps our office connected with HR, and we have an Office of Digital Learning, which is instrumental in teaching our faculty how to instruct in more online modalities. And this person also keeps us connected with the Office of Research and Development, and that has been really instrumental in incorporating activities such as research boot camps into our professional development seminar series and workshops.
Nice. Now, but before we go on, and thanks for that description, everybody kind of likes to hear how we all run our offices because we are all so different. But so that's
exactly.
A good background for those of us who are embarking on new careers or just getting into the field. So that's great. Now, I wanted to just go back a little bit because I liked what you talked about when you were mentioning the pause thing at the 5-year mark, where you said something I think that's so important that we shouldn't gloss over, is we're all, like everybody in academic medicine, we're all running 100 miles an hour and going so fast, and the job is hard, and our faculty members really work hard, and it's hard for them, and we're always just running from thing to thing to thing. And I like how you put that at the 5-year mark, you didn't just keep doing, you stopped and reflected and went up in the bleachers and looked down at what you built and really took a moment to savor that and appreciate that and recognize that. And what I loved about that was it's a good reminder that we should be, and a lot of us do with our faculty members when we have leadership programs, because that frenetic pace when they come into a session and they got 100 things on their mind and their phones are going off and their emails buzzing, and you could see that they're just scattered, and they so want to take advantage of the offer, the seminar, workshop, whatever we're doing, but you can see that they're just split. And we always try to take a moment. Okay, let's all just take a deep breath. You're here. Let's commit to being in this moment right now. Focus. You're doing great. You are really adding value. The work you do is incredible. Appreciate that. Celebrate that. And I start all my leadership courses off with, okay, you made it. This is your time. You invested in you. Let's start with celebrations. Who got a paper submitted? Who got a paper accepted? Who got a grant submitted? Who has a baby? Who's going to have a baby? And we just try to take a moment to celebrate because we're always running. And so I loved how you said that I didn't just keep going, yep, 5-year anniversary, keep on keeping on, but you actually stopped and you savored that and really appreciated how far you'd come.
Oh, well, thank you. And I love what you said, how you basically start off your leadership trainings with celebrations. And you're absolutely right. We stay so focused on just completing the task and then marking that off of our checklist and moving on to the next task, that we don't stop and take a look back at what we have accomplished. Yeah, I think that's so important for maintaining self-motivation as well.
You're so right. We're so fast to criticize, and I guess in academic medicine, and we get this thick skin because we get so many papers rejected and so many grants rejected, and constant dings in our email that we failed to complete some regulatory compliance training, and all these threatening, things coming at us. So we're so used to the criticism. And I just love how you stop to say, no, wait a minute. We have to appreciate and value the good things that we're doing. And we don't do that enough. I mean, my division is geriatric medicine, gerontology, and our director, Dr. Chris Durso, is so good at that. He sends pictures. So-and-so had a baby. Take a look at this. Congratulations. So-and-so got a grant, awarded or got a good score. So-and-so submitted their paper. And just those little emails, that takes 2 seconds to read it, but it's a little hit of like an endorphin of like, yeah, we're doing good stuff here, people. Stop being so hard on yourselves. You're doing great.
Absolutely. And this is a bit of a sidebar, but I was a facilitator for one of our sessions at the GFA meeting last summer. And one of the speakers was Dr. Erikas. And one of the things he spoke about was the importance of just that type of positive reinforcement and how it aligns with wellness. So even if we aren't getting that externally, we have to be able to provide that for ourselves as well. And if something good happens, I may take maybe 20 minutes to celebrate it, maybe 30 minutes, maybe a day. But I know, at some point you got to get back to working on those other tasks on your task list. But I just like every now and then to take a moment and just savor whatever that accomplishment or that victory is. And it may be something. I may go and get, a candy bar.
I'm going to apologizing to people who are listening right now, but I'm going to beat this horse one more time. And sometimes it's so hard to celebrate because it's so natural and organic a thing for you to do A, B, or C. So I also tell our faculty members, you think this is no big deal, or maybe some of you have come to the point where you're like, well, I've done this surgical procedure umpteen times. It's not a big deal. Why should I celebrate another paper getting submitted? I've submitted hundreds of papers. Or why should I celebrate this grant? It's probably not going to get funded. But I don't know what that's called psychologically, but this idea that, we minimize our importance because it has become rote or easy for us to do that thing. And so we think, well, it's not a big deal. But when someone told me when I got in faculty development 12 years or so ago, and I was like, well, this job, I was the director of the research mentoring program at Rush University. And I'm like, well, it's just so easy. I mean, anybody could do this. And they're like, no, not everybody can do this. I'm like, come on, how could anybody? This is so easy. They're like, no, that's what you're failing to understand, Kim, is that it's easy for you because it's your gift. It's easy for us. And it's like, not a big deal. But it is a big deal. Because it's become so rote, it's because we've become more skilled at it. So because we're skilled at it, we think it's not a big deal. But to anybody else looking in, no, this is because this is our area of expertise and we're good at it. And, and like you said, take a minute and appreciate that instead of always beating yourself up or tending to, inappropriate social comparison. I'm not as good as somebody else because they're doing that. No, you're really good at what you're doing right there, and not everybody can do what you do.
Exactly. And my feeling is the work is always going to be there. The work is going to continue to pile up. So those little moments, and like I said, they can be very small. Those little moments are very therapeutic.
Well, so this brings us to, I would love to hear, I'm sure everybody else would, what do you do in your role or in your office or anything at your school or anything that you think is unique or different or something that makes you excited or innovative, something that you want to kind of get people to kind of listen up here and maybe be encouraged or find some wisdom in what's happening in Atlanta? What do you think?
Well, there are two things that we have developed in our office that I think are pretty cool. One is an executive onboarding program that, let me see, we have been doing this now for 5 years, and I think we've had maybe about 84 people go through the program. And it was actually started back in 2014 when our dean became the president and dean. She holds both positions now. So she was essentially promoted from just being the dean to becoming the president and dean. And with that, she had to assemble a very large team rather quickly. And our goal was to ensure that those members, even if they were promoted internally, had a comprehensive familiarization with the institution and that they had mentorship. So myself and our VP of HR and the president and dean, we got together and designed what we call this new leadership executive onboarding program. And it familiarizes participants to every unit of the institution. So that's every research, academic, clinical, administrative unit. And the participants are also provided 3 mentors. Now, with respect to the presentation of the units, that occurs over a course of 6 weeks, and it's one day out of the week. We have it every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. And then as far as the mentors are concerned, this is a strategy that we actually adopted from another institution that we've given credit. And there are 3 mentors. One is a peer mentor who's like a buddy and holds the same type of position as that new leader. The second is an orientation navigator, who is someone who is a skilled administrator who can help that new leader with daily day-to-day administrative responsibilities. And the third is a transition mentor, and that's the person who helps the individual with, say, strategic planning. They may not have the same type of function as that person, but they have expertise in say, building and developing new offices and programs, and they're generally someone who's external to the institution.
Really?
So exactly. So those individuals are paired with 3 mentors in those categories. And we perform a pre-test, of course, before we start the program, and a post-test, but we also perform a retrospective survey. So let me rephrase that. So a pre-survey, post-survey, and a retrospective survey. And the retrospective survey is only given to those individuals who were promoted internally, and it examines them to see if they knew as much about the institution as they thought they did. And what we find is at the end of the 6 weeks, that those individuals who were promoted internally did not know as much as they felt that they did, regardless of how many years they had been employed here.
Well,
so we have found, I know, exactly. So we found the program to be extremely successful, and in fact, we copyrighted the program, and there are other institutions across the nation who would really like us to help them develop something similar. And I've had the privilege of presenting this at the GFA meeting last summer as well. So that's one of the things that...
Could I stop you there? I want to hear more about this transition mentor who's external to the institution.
What is interesting is we set funds aside to pay the transition mentors, but they were so happy to be engaged in this and felt so honored to be invited that none of them accepted the funds that we were gonna provide. And essentially, what we've done is with our top leadership, they have a very extensive cadre of collaborators outside of the institution, and we just basically petition them. We petition our president as far as who their networks are. And we find from the network someone who can best align with that new leader. And for example, with our Office of Institutional Advancement, we hired quite a few people in that area. And so the person who is the VP of Institutional Advancement, he has collaborations with a lot of PR firms or a lot of nonprofit agencies outside of Atlanta. So we end up pairing someone internally with someone on the external side. And it's also instrumental in helping us to build more collaborations with outside entities in the institution.
Do you have any formal protocol for assessing those transition mentors?
Yeah, and generally the the transition mentors that we select are individuals who are already familiar with the institution. So they work with us in some capacity. Now, granted, once the mentoring relationship continues to grow and develop, they learn even more about the institution.
Wow, and I wonder if the new leaders I bet you they probably have some level of ongoing connection with those external folks.
They do. And that's one of the things that we're very pleased to see, that not only do these relationships continue on as far as mentorship is concerned. But of course, there are friendships that develop. There are we've had even more developed collaborations occur, which really help the institution get its name. Well, it's already pretty well known in the community, but it helps to, I guess, put more appendages out there in areas that may not be as familiar with the institution.
How do you find those external mentors view themselves? Are they coaching or mentoring? Is there any distinction? Does that, have you thought any about that?
In a sense, they are coaches. Yeah. They are, because they are really responsible for helping with the strategic planning of that new leader would incur in their new role. So it's not necessarily someone who has, like I said, the same function, because that's what the role of the peer mentor is. But with the transition mentor, it really is more of a coaching type relationship. And like I said, these are concepts that we actually adapted from another institution, which we do give them credit for.
Wonderful. Now, before we go into your second thing I know you want to talk about, let's give a shout out to our sister, who's the dean and president. Let's get her name out there. That's a wonderful accomplishment. So who is your president?
Okay. Her name is Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice.
All right. So what was the other thing you wanted to share with us?
Now, the other thing is probably something that is common on other campuses, but we've been able to adapt it for our institution. So what we were finding from our junior faculty was they were very vocal about what they felt they were missing in the, years 1 to 3 of their introduction to being independent, basically. And we took that information, and the information was achieved through a series of lunches and dinners with junior faculty where they were able to have open discussions with our president. And so from those meeting minutes, we took that information and tried to develop some form of programming that was specific for them. So our first endeavor in this was back in the fall. We had a junior faculty workshop where we just basically focused on those things, the things that they felt were very pertinent to them that wasn't obvious and that they didn't get in their training. So we talked about the importance of allocation of effort, the role of mentors, how to find mentors, how to select committees, the importance of IDPs or independent development plans. And in addition to that, we know what the needs are of junior faculty members because we want them to start off, on the right foot. But then also with our department chairs, we started developing a series of what we call chair sessions, where we focus on things such as strategic planning for the department, understanding budget fund flows, maximizing annual evaluations. So things along those lines. Like I said, there may be similar activities that are being implemented at other institutions, but we were able to take those items, customize them for Morehouse School of Medicine based on the feedback that we got from junior faculty as well as department chairs. Yeah. And what I'd like to emphasize about that is being in this position, as you know, Kim, you may talk a lot, but you also have to take opportunities to listen. And listening is what really helps to build a robust office and enhance the offerings that you provide and enhance the environment for development of your faculty.
You're right. I share that mantra or that belief. So I've been at Hopkins for, it'll be 6 years now. And every month we have our faculty senate meetings. And like everybody else, faculty senate, they have 1 to 3 or 4 representatives based on the size of the department from every department. So our 32, 33 departments. And it's a very important body in our school of medicine. Came up with a universal child care policy, which Hopkins had never had up until 2 years ago, and tackling a new clinical excellence pathway for promotion. So there's a lot of important work that happens there. And then we have an advisory board of the medical faculty. That's the dean meets every month with all the department chairs, or we call them department directors. So there's this kind of like a hierarchy of these monthly meetings, an advisory board with the dean and this faculty senate. Well, shortly after I came, I noticed that for leadership, I mean, that's people above me, they're not really coming to these monthly faculty senate meetings. They're going to the advisory board where the dean is and all those directors, and it's understandable. I mean, they're all overcommitted with meetings, and it's clear to me. I'm like, okay, well, my job as the associate dean for faculty development is we work hand in glove with our faculty senate, so surely I have to go to that meeting every month. And I was at one of those meetings, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's been 6 years. If I have to hear one more talk about regulatory compliance or the Baltimore City safety report, and I kind of sat there and I was kind of feeling, big for my britches, I guess. And then I reminded myself, wait a minute, Kim, this is where you hear the concerns of the faculty. These faculty senate representatives are representing their faculty members, and talk about any better forum to hear what they're talking about, what they're thinking about, what they're worried about, what annoys them. That realization kind of hit myself up the side of the head, like, don't get all, full of yourself because you sit here and think, all I do is just sit here every month for 2 hours and, I'm just, not learning anything new of like any kind of didactic learning. But then when I changed my orientation that, no, your job is to be here with 2 ears and listen. And exactly what you just said. I mean, that was a real reminder that stop running and worrying about all the work you're not doing or the emails you're not answering. Just stop, be still, be quiet, and listen to what's going on around there, because that's when you'll get insights many times into some unmet needs.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And a lot of times, you hit the nail on the head where you said you're kind of tired of hearing about whatever that issue is. And when you stop and listen, sometimes it's a very simple fix.
I love Dan Shapiro. He was one of the first podcasts that we dropped. He was so funny. He said, we're talking about wellness and joy in medicine. He said, how can our faculty have joy or have any kind of happiness in life when even getting into work is hard because the stupid gate on the parking lot or the parking ramp won't go up.
Exactly.
So they start off their
Perfect
day.
example. Yeah. Perfect example.
Yeah. So you're exactly right. When you think, well, wait a minute, how come someone just doesn't fix that? And then it's just because that's one of so many things are just like, oh, somebody else will do it. And a little tweak can just change people's lives of clicking something a little bit easier or making sure there's water in the water machine. If not now, when? If not me, who? Just do it already.
Absolutely.
So tell us something else that's going on in Atlanta, or something you're noticing with your faculty, or what's coming around the bend. What do you think? You're teeing up for something interesting soon.
Well, can't say what we have quite a few things on the docket. We stay very, very busy. But one thing that I've learned throughout all of this is, we have so much information that's published in our handbooks, that's published in our bylaws. We send out emails left and right. But I've learned that how the information is presented is the key, because we want to make sure that people acknowledge the information and that they retain it. So what I've done since I've been here, when I've had to personally give workshops, is to really just present the information that's already in our handbooks and our bylaws and that's on our website, but to present it in a way where the information can be reinforced and retained, and to present it in an engaging format. So it sounds very simple in theory, just to take what's already published and to just make sure that people understand it. And in fact, one of my coworkers here says, if you want to make sure people don't know what's I guess, how does she put it? It's so funny. If you want to make sure that people don't know what a rule or regulation is, type it up and put it in a book, put it in a manual.
That is
so I've had to learn to be somewhat creative as far as disseminating information and ensuring that it's being retained. So like I said, I just basically develop presentations that emphasize what's in our manuals, but I try to use things such as case studies, flow charts and diagrams. I have other people come in and role play. And I do this like I said, in order for it to be engaging and for people to remember. And the good thing too is if it's in a presentation, people can take that. It's been consolidated and they can basically use it as a cheat sheet when it comes to remembering policies and procedures and guidelines. And what I noticed is that this has helped really increase the level of knowledge regarding our faculty affairs policies across campus. And it's also helped to cut down on the number of times someone emails you or calls you to ask you about a policy, because it's been presented in a way where they remember it. And it now becomes second nature. So I would say that's what I've learned, which has really been helpful for me. And if you remember Valerie Clark, who recently left the AAMC, one of the things that she said was when it comes to disseminating information and to ensure that people retain it, you have to present it 3 times, 3 different ways.
Say that again.
To ensure that people are retaining the information that you're disseminating, you need to present it 3 times, 3 different ways.
I love that you're so creative with the role plays. I never thought of doing that for something out of our gold book I never thought of doing role playing. Instead, you
exactly.
Just beat them up with PowerPoint and just copy and paste from the gold book into a slide, new slide, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And then we say, well, they know we have a link to the gold book. We have a link to this. We've given them the PowerPoint slides, but I love that idea of something that would stick in their heads as a memorable experience, or like you said, vignettes or case studies or talking with each other. And I'm reflecting now back. Oh, that reminds me, in the Center on Aging and Health, because I do gerontology work, we have this family social resources working group, and one of our faculty member researchers in nursing, Dr. Laura Samuel, she does socioeconomic disparities research, and she was presenting her research preparing for our gerontological meeting. And she started off her talk with, she held up a dollar bill and just paused and held this dollar bill, what does this mean to you? What does this represent to you? And everybody was like, what in the world is she talking about? And she kept holding that dollar bill up. And then she went into, the meaning of money and the value of money. And it stuck with me just for what you said, that unique, creative catch. And I'm sure people out there who may be listening to this who do communication, they're like, duh, that's how you present a message. Yeah. You grab the audience by doing something like, oh, here's a problem, or you catch their eye by doing something different versus just ripping into, we're here to talk about promotion today, blah, blah, blah. But her standing there in quiet and being quiet and holding that dollar bill up, then you're almost like, where's she going with this? What's this about? And now
exactly.
Curious. My other friend is a communication or marketing person, and she always reminds me, Kim, the key to good marketing is a persistent message consistently presented. No, a consistent message persistently presented. A consistent message persistently presented. So you got
I like that.
Yeah, what is your consistent message persistently presented? So you say the same thing, and you continue to beat them about the head with that information. But yeah, to Valerie Clark's 3 different ways, because we all learn in different styles. Some people will learn it by
exactly.
By watching it, by reading it, by hearing it. So what would a typical role play look like when you'd have people come in? What are they doing, or what are they acting out?
Well, an example of one that we performed was the relationship between the department chair and a center and institute director. So I don't know how this is at other institutions, but there tend to be faculty that are shared between a department chair and a center or institute director. However, the department chair, at least here, is responsible for the annual evaluations and ensuring how that individual's salary is going to be allocated. So we wanted to make sure that there would be communication, consistent communication, and that the lines are open between the department chair and the center or institute director pertaining to that one faculty member, because we didn't want one entity doing something without the other knowing. So there was a role play between a center and institute director and a department chair where they were discussing the future of a faculty member. And by having that role playing scenario, we wanted to reinforce to our other center institute directors and department chairs that when it comes to your shared faculty, this is how we want you to engage in discussing them. Because what we don't want to happen is if there is funding that's coming through a center or institute and the funding disappears and the department chair isn't aware of that, and the department chair has to find funds at the last minute to try to support that faculty member. So that's why that communication is really important.
That's really great. I love that. So who do you have that does the role playing? Are they actors or are they really directors and institute directors?
We don't have any actors. Well, some individuals may think that they're actors, but we've done a combination. We'll have faculty members. We may have staff, and we may have actual department chairs and center and institute directors playing those roles.
I bet you they really remember that. It's making me think of, when you do mock study sections. So when I was at Rush, I hosted mock NIH study sections where a couple brave souls, faculty members, submitted their grant applications, and we had a panel sitting up on a dais of 5 or 6 whatever senior faculty folks who'd been serving on for many, many years, and literally they kind of just carried themselves as if they were at a real NIH study section, and everybody in the audience just watched. It was just completely observing how, the review would go and what they'd say and what they talk about and how they score and don't score and things that come up and how somebody will, kind of change the score just by saying something and how they're rebutted. And it was just fascinating. And then we, at the end of the, 45 minutes or whatever it was, then it was opened up to Q&A. And I'll tell you, those audience members, many of them were like, I had no idea. I get a peek into the inside world. And so I bet the people who watch that role play the same thing, like, are you kidding me? That's what they talk about? That's the issues, or that's what they're saying?
And you're right. And it reinforces how at least those two entities that we targeted, how they should communicate with each other and remain in consistent communication.
Is there something else you'd like to impart with us?
Well, one thing I would definitely say is in academia, we are generally more focused on employing our analytical side. But I think it's also helpful to, use both sides of your brain, so to speak. Don't be afraid to infuse your creative side with the analytical side. And with that, don't set boundaries. So, and just be amazed at how far your office or your program, whatever the idea is, how far it can go. So, of course, keep the analytical side, step out and embark on the creative side, and be boundless.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. I love that courageous of just, our Associate Dean for Educational Development, Dr. Rachel Levine, for years now, I guess over a decade, has been bringing improv into her Foundations of Teaching and Learning and Educational series because it helps people master their confidence and overcome fears around public speaking. And so improv, saying yes and helping people communicate with patience. And so we've recently started an 8-week series of improv. We started off with a 1 hour, it was a 1.5 hour seminar on the basics improvisation. And then the turnout was great and people loved it. And that's one of those things where you say, oh, we're doing improv. And some people's eyebrows go, seriously? But then once you understand, well, wait a minute, no, there are people who really, they can benefit from this, not only in confidence, but communication and not shutting someone else down by adhering to the basic tenets of improv, which is yes and, rather than no, but, or, that kind of closing off communication. Mm-hmm. So it was not only fun, but just like you said, you get into that whole artistic, don't worry and don't doubt yourself, just have fun. And oftentimes that's our brains, light up because we're so used to being serious scientist all day, serious physician. Being fun and laughing, our brains will fire up in all new, interesting ways. And who
Absolutely.
knows what you might come up with creatively.
Absolutely.
Well, I am totally inspired. You've given me all kinds of ideas, and I'm sure everybody else loves this. We've been listening and talking with Dr. Erika Brown, who is the Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs and Development in the Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.